Also, a weird fun fact, the word Loadge was created by Will whenever we were in middle school.
That does not surprise. I didn't know that, but it does not surprise me. That was actually early on when I first started working with Will. I think we got along fairly well, like when we first met, and we were good. But at some point, like maybe a couple months in, just out of nowhere, just under his breath, I heard him just say, like, he just went, Loadge. And he would just say the word Loadge occasionally, like with no context. And one time I was just like, what is that word? What is Loadge? And he just went, it's my word. I remember he left, and I remember thinking, like, I think I was specifically thinking in my head, I want an explanation for this word really badly, but it's doubtful that I'm ever going to get one. And then just by chance, months later, I think it was Ellie who initially approached me, and then Thomas who later like solidified that I'd be working on it. But Ellie just came up and said, "Oh yeah, we have this project called like the Loadge City musical," and I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, that's what that's from." That thread was dangling for many months until I actually got an explanation of what it was.
Ben, welcome to the live stream.
Early on, so just for context for anyone who's listening and may not know, the state I got the project in, I don't know what the exact word would be, but I think about 95% of it was recorded and like all the takes were there and everything. A good chunk of it was edited together, but not quite all of it was edited together. When I was editing through all the takes, not all of the sort of personas were totally nailed down at that point. So there was not a lot of continuity like with the takes from each character and like how the lines were delivered. So there were some moments where the conversation would be flowing. Let's say it would be like between Merle and Wally or something. Specifically Wally, his accent would just change constantly. So it would be like relatively what you would associate as like an old man voice. And then it would just violently and suddenly change to being Ukrainian. One of the songs where like the whole gang is together and everyone's really excited. Some of the takes were just aggressively, extremely like Russian Ukrainian sounding.
We both recorded it through a few years ago. And then we realized that the voices were so similar that we needed to do something to differentiate them. And so we started, and I went through the entire thing again with a different old man voice. And actually it was the original voice was like, "Hey, I'm Wally." And then the second one was like, "Hey, I'm Wally." And then, and then we were like, no, that does not work. So we got to go back to like a more grumpy old man. And so then it became that like Russian, Ukrainian kind of like.
For what it's worth, I think the grumpy take was definitely the right one for Wally.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
What made it even worse too was that even Chuck had his own variations as well, where I think it went between Chuck's normal voice, Sean Connery, and Obama. So you got,
there's a good like half of the musical was recorded with Chuck just being an Obama impression.
So I know Thompson and I have listened to this numerous times, and at least for myself, I know there are quotes and songs that are forever burned into my skull. I'm fairly certain you've listened to it even more than us at this point. So are there any lines or songs or verses or anything you wish you wouldn't remember for as long as you probably will?
Believe it or not, I'll look back on it pretty fondly. But there are a lot of lines of dialogue that are like seared into my memory. I've cursed my girlfriend because I do a lot of my work in my living room blaring through speakers. So she hears everything I work on all the time and all the repetitions of it. So me and her know just load front to back. We could pick out any individual line from it. Our biggest one is, "Spreadsheets are weak. We don't care about your spreadsheets." The other big one, it's from the beginning. I think it's from track 2. I want to say 2 with Marge. I'll try not to impersonate the whole line, but Will just brought a very special something specifically to the Marge character. And I found just half a piece of Will doing a Marge line. And I just was alone at my desk, screaming, laughing. And I is so over the top. Yeah. It's just, it sounds like something like an experienced Simpsons voice actor or something would have.
He has a beautiful tremor that he brings to the voice that just has it.
I was having him record just a couple little lines, and I emailed him saying, just with a little list, hey, can you say this, this, this? Mm-hmm. And then I said, I forget what it was, just something like, can you say, hello, my name is Marge, I love poetry, or just something generic like that. And I said, but can you fit it in between these two lines of dialogue so we don't have to recut too much, just because so we don't have to mess up the flow of it. And he sent me the audio back, and he just replied, Marge can't talk that fast. This isn't how Marge would have said that. So I said it how Marge would have done it. The dialogue that ended up in it, I think it's not, its effect is the same, but like the literal wordage of it was actually a lot different than I was originally asked for. But it ended up being great. So I didn't ask to recut it. I just thought it was so hilarious if like he has such a specific definition of like the speed at which she can talk, what words she can say comfortably, and how fast. And yeah, I just thought all that was hilarious. Yeah.
You really delved into the character there. Yeah, you, Will, and Linda all offered this nice wrapping of professionalism that, I mean, I think Thomas and I have our levels of professionalism, but I do think this was more like, it wasn't necessarily, you know, we've never done an album or done audio skits or anything like this. And in some way, I think like a lot of what I laugh at in listening to it now is like the contrast of knowing that there's this weirdly professional rapping over top of this really silly, just kind of stream of consciousness project.